So today, I thought, because there isn't a lot of news going around right now, so I thought we'd talk a little bit about the new timeline details that Mike Pondsmith has put up on Reddit.
Hmm.
Potentially also some ratings. What kind of rating this game's gonna get? Is it gonna get mature, adults only, things like that? And then we'll take a lot of questions from the chat. Is that okay with you
Oh,
guys?
I have something. Um,
Throw it out there.
it's nothing big. It's nothing huge.
Uh-huh.
But I have confirmation that there's a couple of people that are on vacation right now. You can also find this out if you troll Twitter, or I mean, stalk Twitter. I mean, uh, 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 be nice on Twitter. That's what I mean. If you do that enough, you'll realize that there's a bunch of people from CDPR who are on a short little break.
That's
Usually,
nice.
nothing big, like just like going away for the weekend or a half a week or something like that. Um, and remember what I said? I don't know if I said it on the community podcast, but how like we wouldn't be seeing anything super special about CDPRs and their plans until after the first week of May,
Mm-hmm.
because the due date for the submission for info regarding E3, that kind of stuff, is typically gonna, like, it's gonna be like semi cemented in early May, and then it's gonna be hard cemented by the end of the month, and then the show is like 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't see anything until at least the very first weekend of May, and that coincides with a bunch of people who have been working very, very hard who suddenly are having a couple days off.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
before you start getting carried away with that, I shall tell you that people working there used to do that a lot, going,
hmm I
traveling
know,
away.
I know, but I'm just pointing it out how very refreshing it is that they lined up at
I mean,
right when I happened to mention that they probably would be done a major, I don't know,
project
trailer
of
or
some sort.
something,
Mm.
you some sort of big thing that they've been preparing for quite a while. I just throwing
Ooh.
that out there, just throwing that out there. So
A calm before the storm.
yes,
Indeed.
well, it definitely is. Like, overall, there's a big calm before the storm hits. Unless you're like, it's really quiet right now, except for certain products and certain games. But
Mm.
yeah, we're
Even
gonna
the
we're
people
gonna
that we were reaching out to within the CDPR network, in terms of guests, they said typically after E3 is when they'd be more free.
Mhm.
So, yeah, they've been working like dogs. So I suppose they deserve a little break or two here and there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It also
yeah, and if
makes
you need
sense
to,
a bit if you like, because now they're gonna just talk about the stuff that we saw, but after E3 we can ask them so much more about
Absolutely, yeah,
the new
yeah.
details.
Mhm.
Yeah,
hmm So,
but mm,
timeline details. You guys want to talk about that? So Mike Pondsmith took to
before
Twitter.
you go on that, so
Yeah.
you've
Oh,
you've been stalking Red Sip. You've been stalking people from Red on Twitter.
don't we all do that? That's like our pastime, like our favorite pastime.
Well,
Oh, come on, don't lie there. Don't lie. Don't lie. You're trying to get
well,
those juicy details. I know
not
you
all of
are.
them, not all of them. Not all of them.
Most of them.
No,
it's
no,
funny
no.
how
No.
you find out about games, like in the era we live in. Like, it's like through Twitter, through Instagram. I actually find a lot of stuff about the things that I talk about, like Cyberpunk, The Witcher, through
Yeah.
those sources. So it's kind of cool. I feel like we're doing net running to find new info. Watching LinkedIn, um, like work experience is another good one, because if
Mm.
you like,
Yeah.
you're just watching, then suddenly it's like, hey, 10 people are now reporting that they're working on this new project about something in particular. Sometimes they'll just put out the name,
Yeah.
and then they'll go, oops, and then they go and they change it to something like, something that can be, it doesn't directly say what it is, but it's definitely like, you're like, yeah, I know what you're working on. I know what you're working on, but everybody's just hobnobbing about, you know, whether or not it's what they're
hmm
thinking it is or not. So,
LinkedIn
Let
is
me
a.
let me interrupt you here because I'd like to answer a question, a comment made on the comments by Chupacabra that said,
I thought McQueen was a Cyberpunk 2077 journalist. Stalking to the Project Red on Twitter should be made a point. Well, I am not. I don't. First, I don't consider myself a journalist. In fact, as soon as there were other people talking about the game, the first I did was stop giving news about it because I'm way more interested in other things.
Yeah, I think you said you didn't even like news, right? Or like
Yeah,
not
it's
as
not
much as
really.
the lore. Yeah.
Yes, I want to know, so I want to keep myself informed, and I can talk about that. But that's reporting news. That's so boring for me. And the moment new channels like the TheNeonArcade came in, or LastKnownMeal is also doing a very good job with the news. You don't need me for that. You don't need me for that.
It's funny
And
because that's my
liberation
favorite
for
part
me.
too. It's like we're at like opposite ends of the spectrum. You like the lore. We all like something different, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's
we all
super
fixate on. Sorry.
It's kind of cool because all of us together make very, very different things, and together we make some sort of different type of news outlet. But yeah, I'm on the side of the law, and I'm on the side of the creative things. But yeah, I do stalk people anyway, for another reasons, not for journalist reasons.
For the Cyberpunk Avengers.
Cyberpunk
that one.
Avengers.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I want to be Tony Stark.
Go ahead, you got it.
But no, while we're talking about channels, like I actually got a question last week. Like someone asked me like how can I be like Cyberpunk YouTuber? It's like find the thing you like the most from Cyberpunk and just enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Try to do something that I'm not saying like you can like you shouldn't do news because someone does news, but find an interesting way of doing it. And I think every single one of us here does it, as Matt Quinn said, in their own way. Makes it great for the community in general.
Yeah, I think we all dabble in like different areas and aspects of it, but like we have our main focus, which is kind of important, right? If you guys are wanting to become content creators, I suppose, focus on one aspect of it and really double down on that, and then you can always do other videos here and there, but you have a focus which people come to you specifically for, which is cool.
Yeah, always start with a focus, because it's like being a panelist on like some like news talk show. Like you look at them and you go, oh wow, how'd they get to that job? Like what course do I need to take to become somebody who people go to ask generalized questions? Like Joe Rogan is a good experience where it's the world's biggest podcast, and it's like, what did he do? Did he go to school for that specifically? No, he started on one very specific thing in his career, and then he started talking about that, but then he just started branching out into more and more. But it was because he was specialized in his one thing. And same with news analysts all the time. There's this one woman I love watching on these panelist shows where she talks about how she became skilled at her profession, and then that opened the door to being a commentator and a panelist talking about issues of the day. And that's really the way to go.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. So, should we jump to the timeline details? Or actually, do we have any questions that are popping up in the chat before we move on? I don't think so.
The release date.
Release date, oh my goodness.
When it's ready.
Yeah, this one. Wolfie says, can you ask this girl if she's still butthurt about the first person point of view? Well, I am not the one who is butthurt in this conversation, and that's the reason why we're not having it.
Yeah, no, Mad Queen's not she's not nearly like butthurt about that. I, on the other hand, which we won't.
I think we've gone into this like every single podcast, and it's actually kind of funny at this point because it's like a recurring thing that we can just laugh at this point. But yeah.
Well, actually, I brought this up to that for that for making the joke.
Oh, to throw Seb under the bus.
Same with when you set your cell phone to silent, and then somebody, like a family member, is texting you, and they're like, "Why aren't you responding to my text?" So they send an emergency text that goes through your silenced. Yeah, that's always fun too. I'm not answering you because I'm on a podcast.
That's like the boy who cried wolf. Come on, don't use that.
That was the sound. I was wondering,
that was somebody texting me saying, "Why aren't you responding to my text? Are you okay?" It's like, I'm not responding to your text because I don't know if maybe if you followed my channel, you might know that I'm currently busy. So love that. There's supposed to be an emergency broadcast in our area coming up this week sometime soon. I'm like, I tend to want to bet you that's going to go off in the middle of like a podcast or when I'm recording.
It's probably going to be at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Is that the like nationwide ones that pop up on your phone?
Yeah, that's the ones where it's like there's some of them that are meant to go through like your silenced versions.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to because it's like, hey, there's a tornado coming. It's like, yeah, that's kind of information you need to know right at that moment. But when they're doing the tests, it's always at the worst possible time. It is fun being in like a really big public place when they do the tests, and then like everybody in the public area just suddenly goes off. But,
yeah. I mean, I guess they have to do that. Oh,
there we go. I'm not the only one.
That's me, my bad. Wow, this is a train wreck so far. Jesus. Come on.
But that was such a good moment.
I know, right? That was
like
perfect timing. Thanks. Thanks, whoever's calling me.
It turned out well. Don't worry. Now, the timeline.
Yeah, so let's jump to the timeline. So essentially, Mike Pondsmith actually took to Reddit, which he doesn't usually make Reddit posts. So he felt the need to clarify this, that Cyberpunk 2020 and 2077 share the same timeline. I thought that was kind of obvious, but apparently there's a article floating out there that still says otherwise. So I guess we could talk a little bit about that.
Well, I believe the confusion comes from that video that PlayStation put out about the Project Red, where they talk about Cyberpunk 2077, and they said specifically with poor choice of words that 2020 and 2077 are set in different timelines. And as this video is way more successful than any communication that Talsorian Games can make on Twitter, because they've been insisting about the continuity of 2020 to 2077. Like when this video came out, every time someone complains about this countdown to the dark future that Talsorian makes and puts on Reddit, there's always someone who puts a comment saying, well, this is not exactly related to Cyberpunk 2077. And then Pondsmith answers, well, if it's not related, then explain to me why the fuck am I calling Poland every week?
Yeah. I think it's all somewhat related, right? It's not like...
yeah, and I mean, he really makes a point there. It's like, I've heard this time and time again that, you know, CDPR is doing something completely different with the series, and it's completely different than Mike Pondsmith's vision of the game. And I keep going, then why is he literally involved in this, and why has he traveled, like, he travels there once a year at the very least, and he's on big calls that last, you know, 2-3 hours at a time sometimes. It's like every single week he does that at the very least, if not more than more than once or twice a week easily.
He was just there too.
Yeah, and he was just there, and people are like, oh no, it has nothing to do with it. And I'm so glad of this, because we said on our last podcast yesterday, it's like people are done with the idea of multiple timelines in their franchises. It just doesn't work.
It's confusing, like, right?
Well, it's confusing, and it's like, sure, you usually get like one good movie, like the Star Trek movie was like, the first one was like, oh, cool, and then it goes downhill from there.
Right.
And from games, from everything from games to books to this stuff, it's just like, it's just not as good.
It's because usually those are like blatant cash grabs, right? If the first one is successful, then they want to kind of replicate it, but in an easy way, I suppose.
Yeah. So this, I'm personally happy with this choice, and the fact that they came out and really clarified it, because we were worried there for a while, when there was lots of rumors going back and forth, and I talked to several people in the company, and more than one person was didn't understand or wasn't sure themselves, and I mean, they're the people that are working on the game, so it's like, oh, okay, good, now we have this clarification.
Because a lot of things are changing with Red. It's related to a question that Dredgen said on the comments. How would a Rockboy work as with corpse? For example, if they were placed in a situation they were forced to, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Well, the thing is that in Cyberpunk Red, they are creating a new set of rules. This was explained by Intel Games, Jay, some time ago when he made the first game of the Cyberpunk Red edition. And for instance, there is a new category of cooperatives that I'm not sure if they're going to change the name or going to create a new category of cooperatives, which is XX. And they're going to create rules for transitioning. For instance, the example you said, you are a rocker boy, and at one point you are hired in for a record label at a mega corporation, and then you become an executive. But you keep having your rocker boy things and transition to being an executive. This it seems that it's going to be a thing with a lot of character classes, because they also explained that the cops changed. Now the cops are lawmen, and this includes from the National Law Enforcement Division, the policemen of regular police, cooperative police, and even security officers. So I believe that this is linked to the way that you can escalate inside a character class, your character inside Cyberpunk 2077, where you don't have to pick a class from the start, but you pick a class by choosing the different abilities that you have available. And somehow it seems to me that it's going to be related, the new rules of Red, with this new way of creating the character class your character belongs to. This way you can choose if you want to be. In the case of the rocker boy that goes exec, maybe he doesn't want to be on the spot anymore, and somehow he loses his ability to move crowds, so he loses his ability as a rocker boy. Or maybe he wants to keep doing that. This creates some sort of a multi-class, which is the way that the video game is treating the character classes like a multi-class. So I believe that Cyberpunk Red not only is setting the law that happened between the Fourth Corporate War and 2077, but also the new rules, adapting, making them in one hand simpler, and on the other adapting them to the video game. Because also, for instance, in the video game, we could see that the attractiveness is not there anymore. And Mike Pondsmith recently said that they were going to remove that from the pen and paper game, because it was very stupid to have attractiveness when you created your character, because in the end you could go to any place to have a bioscope, change your appearance, so you didn't really need to roll dice for that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I always kind of felt that just boiled down to like just general charisma. It's like, I know lots of people who have a pretty face who have, like, you know, they walk up to, you know, they go, they get a nice hairdo, they shower, they shave, or they clean up, and they dress in a nice suit, and they walk up to a girl and that they want to ask out, and then they stumble through their words like, your hair smells pretty, and then they throw up. It's like, that's somebody who has low charisma versus somebody who, you know, doesn't look as good as them, who can be, you know, suave and debonair. That's what I always assumed that meant, but
yeah.
But also in Cyberpunk you have
point, yeah.
In Cyberpunk you have different things of everything that you have explained here. You have grooming, which is an ability. There's like dressing nice. You have also convincing for the way you talk. You have charisma. You have cool. You have a lot of things that, because attractiveness it was used to measure, you know, your face, mostly your face and body, how attractive it was, which is quite absurd in a game where you just go to your first fashion and fusion or Dr. Oz or whatever you have in Red, and for a sum of money then turn into an attractive 10. So it's stupid that you have to make to throw dice for that, because you can change it in game pretty easily.
That makes sense.
But we didn't see empathy in the character creation of Cyberpunk 2077, and I'm not sure if empathy is another thing that they can change in Cyberpunk Red Edition, because empathy is directly related to cyberpsychosis.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious if they are making changes on cyberpsychosis in Cyberpunk Red.
Could be.
Because this is a subject that in the video game was still pending. they always said, well, V was probably is going to be affected by cyberpsychosis. It's going to be represented in the game. In fact, we saw it
They
in
have
the
humanity.
demo.
They have humanity on each piece of wear.
Yes, we know that we can't go cyber psycho, but that is something that we already knew if you played the pen and paper game, because the moment you reach empathy 0, you just
lose.
die. You lose control of your own character, and that's it. So in the video game, it's absurd that you can go cyber psycho, because it's a simple principle.
There's no game over screen, so we already know that that's not possible, right? You'll have to live with your consequences.
But, going down to that, the degradation of the character until reaching, this last points of humanity, this last points of empathy, having one empathy that you are not exactly there, but you are on the verge. That it's a very interesting thing to explore. And let me finish, and I'm sorry, I'm taking all the time, but just let me finish this thing. Exploring that will be very interesting, but in terms of gameplay, I have no idea how they can do that. And that's it. Go on, please.
Well, this is an area that I've been kind of keeping my eye very closely on, because it's like I don't think V, in the scenario that V is in, is going to suffer from this and have this as a problem when it comes to like just everyday upgrades, because he has a doctor, the Ripperdoc, who clearly like cares for them, right? And that Ripperdoc probably has, he's probably put you through a lot of tests to figure out exactly where your limit is, right? And they probably, especially after like 50 years, they probably have developed enough technology to kind of get a grasp of where your personal limit for modifications are, and that people who go past it are people who don't have a Ripperdoc who cares about them, or who is has a vested interest in them not going insane and murdering everybody, right? So I think in this case, because of him, he's going to prevent that from happening, because every time you get an upgrade, you're probably going to go to the same guy. It's probably going to be the same guy throughout the entirety of the game. However, within the confines of the story or something like that, where V might be forced to like take on some more stuff outside of that kind of scenario that ends up pushing the story forward or something like that, that might work in, and then that works in from a narrative standpoint, and not from a bar on your thing where you just go crazy. Whereas when you're getting upgrades and stuff, you have to monitor, you have a limit, and then you can't push past the limit. So that's going to help like with making it so that you're not overpowered in the game.
But I don't think that's going to have an effect, because I think there's going to be a multitude of Ripperdocs in the city. We might go to him more frequently than the other ones, but there's illegal underground, black market cyberware ones. There's a big open world, so I'm guessing we're gonna be visiting multiple. Right, so I don't think they're gonna really care. It's gonna be more on our own onus to keep that in check. He might give you like little hints from.
The thing is that cyberware also is going to have an upgrade. We could see Vic had the Kiroshi that he implants to V, and then he has an upgrade. And there are a wide variety of implants that he may not have available.
Right.
So we will have to go. And the other thing that you were pointing out, like he cares about V. He's going to. They develop a technology to notice where is your limit. No, because cyberpsychosis is a psychological thing, and noting a psychological thing is not that simple.
No, it's not that simple, but it's also not that hard.
Yes and no, because you have a friend with I don't know what, some sort of mental illness, and the first thing you need to do is convince this friend that has a mental illness and needs needs something, medical attention, whatever. This is not easy.
It's like on the other hand, no one wants to. I just want to add this one thing. It's like no one ever wants to go to the doctor, right? In real life, no one ever actually wants to go to the doctor. So why would somebody, who doesn't feel like they're becoming cyberpsychotic want to go? It would feel like a waste of time, right? No one wants to go for a checkup in real life. So that's kind of analogous to the real world. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that you mentioned, that you mentioned, the exploiting this on the narrative perspective is very interesting. Because if not, we go to Deus Ex. What happened in Deus Ex? If you went over the limit, you only had a call of your doctor saying you should stop, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
Yeah.
a couple points on this. First of all, anybody who's a who does like heavy work, whether it's like being an emergency responder or somebody who's in the military or somebody who's in, in the line of like being a mercenary, a lot of them have a psychologist that they go to see a lot, and the ones who go crazy or have some personal issues are ones who usually end up not going to see that person. So that's wrong. I'm going to say that that's probably incorrect, that we're not playing a psychotic person who's ignoring the people who are trying to help them. Like V appears to me to be a character who has a network of friends and companions that they're working closely with, and I think because of that, not that cyber psychosis is not something that we'll see in the game, it's not something that's going to affect V in the same way that it would affect the average Joe that she'll encounter inside of one of the gangs or something, or on the street or something like that. So in this case, what I'm saying is, like, I think when we're looking at the game and where it's headed, it's because it's still fairly a narrative story, and they're telling the story of this one particular mercenary, that there are some things within the world that it's not going to be present for V or for the player to kind of experience, even though they're still very, very real, but it just happens to be V's character. I don't think we're going to have unlimited freedom to make your character like a complete psycho and jump off the bridge of insanity just because. I don't think we're going to see that, whereas that still exists within the world. It's just within the narrative that they're telling with V in this particular moment is not really what they're going for. And then as far as I'm pretty sure, and this is definitely something I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna guarantee you our primary main Ripperdoc throughout the entire thing will be that one guy, and that we won't be going to 10 or 20 different shops throughout the city. I think it's all gonna come down to that's our main dude, and that's, aside from like some story stuff, that's it.
Yeah, but I don't know about that. Like, of course, yeah, it could be very important for the story, but of course, I think we're gonna have the rest. I just hope for two things: that number one, we start without any cybernetics whatsoever, because I think people would actually want, like, for example, if someone wants to go through a game without having any cybernetics in their body, like from Ghost in the Shell,
You
I believe
can't.
Gusa or someone had. Well, that's something that I would kind of add. And the second thing would be like for upgrades that you mentioned, for the stuff we already have in ourselves. I really enjoyed in The Witcher searching for the upgrades, but at the same time in Cyberpunk, it would be cool if we had like a place where we can buy that, but at the same time get a hint or something like that on a, like, they tell us how to steal it. That would be cool. If we actually go like into a big corporation or I don't know, somewhere underground, and we find a way to steal it, especially if that's high-end stuff.
And we've already seen stealing stuff from
Yeah.
back for corporations and stuff like that. What do you guys think about like dialogue consequences as being kind of the consequence of cyberpsychosis? Maybe they cut off some options, or if you get a little bit too close to the edge, your options are timed, or you have more kind of on the edge kind of options in terms of
I would love
dialogue
that
options.
to happen. I would really love that to happen, because also inside the lore there is a very particular way of talking when you are closer to cyberpsychosis.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's
this
very
will be like
aggressive,
using
right?
like, sorry?
It's a very maybe more aggressive way of speaking, and that has a narrative impact, which they're all about.
Yes,
Yeah.
and way colder, and using the word meat mac every time, and yes.
Yeah.
I would like to answer that. Let me please interrupt you before I lose the question, and
Sure.
then I'll let you rest talk. Because this is something about the world building. Chupacabra says, do we think they'll implement new tech that's happening in the world today, like better crops and stuff to clean the atmosphere and land, blah, blah. The thing is that this is something about the world building. The people who is in power and has the resources to invent all that, they just don't give a shit. If they can't commercialize it.
Mm-hmm.
The advancements in technology to take care of the planet, like the fuel that Biotechnica invented, the CO2, it's something that Biotechnica developed for economic reasons, not because they cared about the planet.
Right.
And this is not because the technology, because they can't, technologically speaking, do that, but because in this universe that is a parody of our universe, the people who are in power just don't give a shit about that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of the things that caused the crash of the 94 is that all these are environmental disasters and that the government didn't have any plan and any way to, to counterattack all this.
Well, there are old cities in the Cyberpunk 2020 lore that are a little bit less savage about how they treat their people, right? It's more government influenced rather than corporation influence, as the new cities are. I think.
But government influence and corporate influence is the exact same thing.
Yeah, just in a different way.
Yeah,
in a tiny,
I suppose.
different way. But yeah,
I think corporations are more savage, are they not? When it comes to the new city, old city distinction, and I think Night City falls into the new, right? So it's kind of a mix. It's like a blend of everything.
Well, usually the old cities tend to have less cooperative presence because corpos like to live in new cities.
Yeah, exactly.
They have nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but to go back to the previous topic for the narrative and like the dynamic interaction in the dialogue,
right?
That's really good, especially if, like, obviously the game is going to give you various options throughout the dialogue, like we've seen in the demo, where you can decide in an instant of a second, do you want to shoot the guy or do you want to back off a bit?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see how much is that going to translate from like our stats from our character, because one thing I really enjoyed in New Vegas, for example, I think I said this multiple times, is that if your intelligence is 1, you're going to give those answers.
Right.
And so if you want to build your character who is strong but dumb, that's
actually a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah,
because they have the cool stat as well too, right? So maybe you're more cool. I think they've said you're more cool under pressure. So you'd probably have dialogue options that make you, less susceptible to them beating your ass or whatever.
Yeah, you just handle situations in a different way. If you're strong, you're going to threaten someone. But if you're smart, you're going to use your charisma or intelligence.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also at the same time because it's voiced lines, right, from the protagonist, from the main character, because there's a certain like narrative and direction of the book. It's not like Skyrim, where you can be a smooth talking Khajiit, or you can be a dumber than pile of rocks Nord who's like just epic stupid level. It's like it's not I don't think we'll have that much freedom and flexibility as far as the general story goes. It's more like the more like the Commander Shepard route, where it's like it's like you have the you can be smart or you can be stupid, you can be suave or you can be clumsy, but you're going to be following kind of a central narrative, and that's really where CD Projekt Red excels, is at telling a really enhancing narrative. I was just going over one of the expansions, or one of the main quest expansions for The Witcher, and it was just like, wow, this story is a whole lot more meaningful than people first realize. And it's just there's so much more depth to it than you get in a lot of other games, even when it's a complete narrative story ripped off of some book or something like that. It's like, no, there's actual like real meat here in the game, and you get this so very rarely with most of the games that we're getting these days, because the concept of narrative games don't make people money. I don't
Right.
like. I have yet to see any proof of this in general, which is part of why I get so annoyed with the industry in general. It's like there's lots of things that they assume. It's like, you know, graphics are number one, followed by gameplay, and it's like, no, I have never ever seen any other person ever put graphics as number one, aside from like a very small, minute amount of the players. The players have always wanted gameplay to be number one, never graphics.
That's why
And
people are
why
still playing
graphics?
all those old games like Skyrim and
Yeah.
like TF2 and stuff like that. They don't care about the graphics. It's all about the gameplay, right?
And
Yeah.
so it's kind of stupid to kind of look at that and assume, which is why CDPR is, you know, and they're very brilliantly coming at this from wanting to write a really good narrative that's going to get you interested in the world, you know. And that's, I think that's going to be where we're going to see this game's strong point is going to be, although it's much more free than, you know, Gerald in the Witcher games, it's way more free. You know, the fact
Right.
that you can choose a race, or sorry, choose the different sex is immediately is going to make the game, you know, far more accessible to a lot more people, because it's something that allows you to put yourself into the role far more. There's, you know, there's very few things I connect with less than an older, long-haired white guy. It's like,
I
like
feel that.
I am an older white guy, so that there's, you know, that it's not something that I necessarily want to connect with when I'm playing a game. And, you know, some people more or less either way, right? So, you know, but that's the kind of thing that's already setting them apart, and that's going to be cool. That's going to be awesome. That's going to take the game in a really good direction. But I don't think they're going to walk away from their amazing ability to tell really impactful stories, like really, really impactful stories.
And it's so crazy because everybody's journey is going to be so much different, right? It's going to be a lot less linear than even The Witcher 3, which doesn't really strike you as something that's linear to begin with, but like so many more options on top of that, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah. And also one thing that I really enjoyed from Mass Effect is also Witcher had that, I think, Witcher had that, is to basically, if they, and I believe they will, make this a trilogy, to have like to import your character from 2077 onto the next game, especially if some of the choices you made, not the big ones like you made the Witcher, but no more personal ones,
Yeah,
that
that
you
would be
go through the
awesome.
stories. Yeah,
That would be awesome.
that
I like that idea.
that's I enjoy that so much in Mass Effect.
I think Mark Jackson had a great comment in the chat here. The most important feature of graphics is probably facial realism. I can agree with that. Especially in a narrative-driven story, you need to kind of get that emotion out of someone's face.
Yeah.
So that would be a strong aspect to have, which I think they've had already. Royce looked phenomenal.
It was really well done, especially like, and that's how you actually connect with the characters at the end of the day. Like if someone is not in sync, or their mouth are not, you know, or their entire face is not really
There's a big
saying
disconnect
what
there.
they're saying, big disconnect, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that helps in immersion a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We also had a question about exotic. Which exotics are we going? Yeah, probably claws, if they're available.
Yeah, you know, there was a part of the demo where we're walking down the red light district and we can hear some like meows and stuff in the background. So that kind of hints at us being able to see exotics. I don't know if we'll be able to incorporate them because again, I think we talked about this in one of the previous podcasts about the animations, and like changing the heights and stuff would be kind of a challenge based off of animations. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
Yeah, body sculpting is probably not gonna be that to that extent, like
Exactly,
to increase their height.
Yeah, and that's something that like we've mentioned before, is like within the lore there's almost literally an unending number of things that you can do with your body. You can do some really crazy stuff. This doesn't, while it's still lore and while it's still canon, it doesn't translate into making the game, because you can't give as many of those options to people as they necessarily would like. Which is funny because I'm just so two things that popped up on my modding news, which are both interesting. One is for Sekiro. People have modded Shrek in as one of the enemies within the game. so you're
Yeah.
fighting Shrek.
That's
And then
awesome.
the other one is in Fallout 4. They have modded in a whole race, like a whole classification you go through, and you can change like crazy number of options to be a full-on anime character. Like really, really well done. Like it looks like really
Skyrim mod.
They need to mod in Donald Trump to Cyberpunk 2077 so I can whoop his ass.
So this is like overall, it's like this is where modding will come in and give us these options. I think like with tails and cat ears and all kinds of crazy things, and like if you want to extend your skull to be like twice as big, then I mean go
Yeah.
ahead, right? Like all this kind of crazy stuff. It'd be nice, but unfortunately they're limited by the amount of like technology that a lot of this stuff requires, and the fact that you just having these scripts not necessarily being used on any character at the moment, just having them active within the system still does bog down the system in general. So it's like, I keep running into this problem in Fallout and Skyrim where, I've loaded in 250,000 new animations and I can't load in anymore because the game can't take it. What is this? Insanity? Like, seriously. So that's,
Yeah, I think mod support would be
and
huge.
it'll get lesser and lesser as time goes on. So,
Well, there's still like what you said last time. There's like 40,000 people still playing Skyrim, and it's based all on mods essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
The vast majority of it is still like the main reason why is because they're playing mods, because they're playing making the game different, making the game more interesting, making the game a new experience, and that still keeps on driving a massive economy of mods, of creations, of unique cool things, and it's just pretty cool in general. And it's like that's always good to have, and that's always good to see as it becomes more and more connected with what we're expecting from future games, and giving players the ability to have this like diversity amongst what they want to play. And that's something that's like I still can't get over that. Like I want to experience as many things as I possibly can within my games that cater especially to like the finite things that I really, really want to. And you get that when you incorporate modding, and that's nothing but it yields nothing but a positive result overall, especially for like long-term retention.
yeah, even
It keeps the game alive. It makes it go forward.
Exactly.
When the devs are busy like working on an expansion or something like that, when there is like this, this place in like a year when there is nothing new, no updates, no expansions, then mods could be great, like a great filler.
Yeah, they even
and so that's why I really hope and I really think that we might see some tools for it, but it depends on what their follow-up game is. If the follow-up game is something to do in the Cyberpunk universe, there's probably a little bit less of a chance of that.
Yeah.
If they're going for more of a one-off, that's okay, but I really don't think they're doing that. I really, really doubt that they're doing that. I think what they're going for is a series. And I think they're going to have more and more and more games coming out at a much faster rate than what happened before.
Was it not mentioned? I don't remember where it was, but it was vaguely mentioned that this could be a trilogy of some sort.
Yes,
I forget who said that.
Adam Kaczynski said that in a conference, in an investors conference last year, that they were aiming to make. He didn't say trilogy, but he said that it would be more than one.
Yeah, sequels. Yeah.
It makes sense if you create a world, this big, and you have all these assets and you have all these ideas. And they got tired of The Witcher, so why not explore this throughout a course of 10 years or lesser, depending on how much it takes for them.
Yeah. I'm glad they doubled down on the maturity as well. They're jumping from a mature game to a mature game. I think we have enough Fortnites in the market right now that we need something with it's got some adult vibes to it. So that's good.
Yeah, true.
Well, I don't know if you heard about this game called Subverse. But,
I did.
If you want some adult elements,
Isn't that the biggest crowdfunded or Kickstarter campaign for a game, like ever?
No, it's the biggest adult one.
I see.
They've raised tons and tons of more money for other more mainstream games, but this is the biggest like adult one that's ever had crowdfunding. I think one of the other ones had received about, I think, like 200,000-300,000,
Right.
and that one fell apart. So yeah,
Well, there is demand for that, obviously.
yeah, there's big demand. There's also another game called Wildlife that's coming out. We've been talking to the devs with that one too, and it's like the people are interested in this stuff. You know, those guys are making. They haven't done a crowdfunding, like big, like a Kickstarter type thing, but their Patreon pulls in, like, last I checked, it was like just under 50 grand a month or something like that. It's ridiculous how much people are actually interested in getting access to a game that, and with Wildlife, that's not the core of the game. You know, with Subverse, it's basically just that, and it's just that to a point where you're not going to be able to play it online. Whereas Wildlife is like, it's only, the adult content is only like one of the 7 pillars to their game, like exploration, building, crafting, story. Like, that's all part of what they're building on, and you know, that's pretty cool, as far as, like, you know, giving people more options, because why would that ever be a bad thing?
Oh, Subverse actually raised 1.6 million.
2 million USD, 1.6, 1.7 in
Yeah,
pounds.
pounds. Oh my!
Yeah,
That's insane.
Didn't they have trouble? They had trouble, right? For was it for trailer or was it for something else? Forgot.
So, well, we spoke with we did speak with one of the head guys there. We had an interview that went up on our channel. So they've had they got kicked off of Patreon for making too many graphic scenes of an adult level content, and they've had a lot of people, like, trying to, like, snipe them out and take them out for, you know, insert why you're upset about anime or animated jiggle physics or whatever. It's like, just insert whatever reason you want, and there's, like, a lineup of people who are constantly taking shots at them from anything and everything. So, you know,
Is this already been rated as adults only, or is the rating still pending?
No. This is like, because we spoke to them and we asked them, I'm like, are you gonna make, like, a version that you can stream, like, you know, Age of Conan, that kind of like Minecraft-y type game. You know, it's got an option, and they've got servers where the nudity is turned on or off, and that way, as a streamer, you can stream the game to, you know, general kid audiences and not have anything, you know, ban-worthy come up. But they informed us that no, there's definitely no space of the game where that is not going to be present.
Yeah.
As a constant. So even in the space flight stuff, there's going to be, like, all kinds of stuff.
I think if nudity is an aspect of it and it's more mature or whatever, then that's fine. But if it's the whole game revolves around it, it's like, that's not really something that interests me. But I mean, I guess the crowdfunding or whatever says otherwise, which is interesting.
Yeah, but for Cyberpunk, it of course makes sense. And
right, it's narrative.
I know people have been, like, there is one nude scene at the beginning of the demo when, you know, V picks it up, and people have been like, "Oh, we can't show that." Like, I don't know. I have nothing against this. Again, I know that the YouTube and Twitch have been.
You know what's funny though? Like, on my videos that I've shown with the exposed breasts and stuff, I think maybe one has been demonetized out of, like, maybe 50 or whatever. So I don't think they find it a big deal unless they haven't been actively looking at it, because the entire demo is on YouTube.
Yeah, the other thing is that the YouTube understands that there's nudity in the video. Maybe it's the algorithm didn't pick that up.
Maybe, I don't know. That's interesting.
Because every time I put the Sandra Dorset scene on a video, I have it demonetized.
Really?
Every time?
Yes.
What?
It depends on who's reporting the channel as well, because if you have more people trying to report your channel for stuff, that can kind of happen, and then whether or not you get onto a watch list or not, like, it's really messed up because the standard's not applied evenly.
Yeah, it's not consistent.
It's not.
Well, I had a video demonetized just for saying.
Well, cuss words is
I had a video demonetized. Well, the only demonetization, blah blah. thing was the word blowjobs. That was the only thing that was.
Yeah, I think they're hypersensitive about like bad words and stuff, but like
Yeah,
less so
but
about nudity, in my experience at least.
The BJ word is one that really flags it off. So try not to say that one on YouTube. And then there's a couple
but
other
that's
ones that'll really
that's so
set it
fucked
off.
up because you can say dick and then there's no problem.
Yeah, but dick is also the name of like a metric ton of people as well, because dick
Well,
is
no,
actually pretty
now that you
common.
mention it, that's not true exactly because I in the description of the video about William Gibson, I said that I was going to talk about Philip
Philip
K.
K.
Dick,
Dick,
and it
yeah.
appeared like a word that I shouldn't use.
Yeah, but
They-
you can counter that one. Like you can message him and be like, "Excuse me, I was talking about somebody's name." It's like how
Yeah, but the fact that you
sensible is
have to
this?
message somebody is kind of
Well, yeah, no, that's annoying because once again, it's like it's not applied. And if the rules were clear,
they should give us a
perfectly laid
handbook.
out, and yeah, if it came in a handbook that only changed once every 3 years, that'd be great. But right now, it's like it changes every month.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or sometimes multiple times a month.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can say something, okay, that's today, and then it's worthy of getting you banned off the platform entirely tomorrow. And it's like, wow, that
Mhm.
just went from one extreme to another really, really quickly.
Yeah.
It's like, good lord.
And they don't provide updates. They do that. It's always like someone experiences that. It goes onto Twitter. More people talk about it, and it's out. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we posted this like
Mhm.
5 days ago.
Mhm.
I don't know. Like my Dead Island videos, for example, all have been demonetized because of the word
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And if you
We're
What
watch
do I
it,
do?
we're giving extra Neon, because he will need to edit all this conversation out.
you know
Because
what?
if he uploads the video with all this, it's
You know
going
what?
to be
It's
even.
already dead in the water. I'm not even worried about it. just keep talking. It's all good.
Yeah, because I already said blowjobs like 5 times.
Yeah, say it again. Say it 5 more. Let's get it all out there. Let's get it double demonetized. I gotta start paying them to upload this video.
The biggest concern to me is that because it's not applied like universally, because it's kind of weird. And I mean, like just this week with the whole Facebook thing, it's been like, wow, okay, some of those people didn't break the rules on the site at all, period. Like you can't point to a scenario in which they broke the rule. You can only point to a scenario where off of the platform they are reported to have some general ideas that are not something that everybody is okay with in the whole entire universe. It's like, well, congratulations. I really like cheese on my jam with toast, or on my toast with jam. Like taking a slice of like Swiss cheese, putting it on some raspberry jelly on a piece of toast. That's pretty bloody awesome. I know a lot of people who
Is that
think
a
that's
thing?
just disgusting. And so is there going to be a day where I'm kicked off because of that? It's like, can we please like not? Yeah, it's really stressful. It's really frustrating. But
YouTube is our modern
anyways,
day
yeah.
megacorp.
This reminds me.
If you've ever tried that happen.
That's
Remember
why we're the
what happened?
Avengers. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
Remember what happened with what was this web where people uploaded there a lot of fan fiction and not safe for work content?
Tumblr?
Like Tumblr.
Was Tumblr?
Tumblr. Yeah, Tumblr is
Tumblr
The one
used
that-
to be like that.
yeah.
The one that got recently bought by Verizon, and they changed the rules and wanted to make it family friendly, and lost more than half of its current users.
User base. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
now,
Tumblr.
I think that's
Now
They were
Tumblr.
bought
Pornhub-
by Verizon.
no, Pornhub wants to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Well, I have a bit of a personal story with that. So, back a few years ago,
With
I won't-
Pornhub. Are you sure you want
I won't narrow it down. I'm
You'll
not gonna
start
narrow
with
this
Pornhub
down.
in here.
But back a few years ago, I worked with a particular game that became the top trending game on Tumblr, and it was not a family-friendly game. Let's just say that. And we used that to sell a ton of copies to the game, like well over $1 million worth of profits from the game. And that also appeared at the time where Tumblr was quite new and wasn't really getting anywhere. And this drew in a lot of a ton of support. They've gone through and deleted every single one of those things. It's like, we helped you build your company from nothing. Like, we were the top trending thing, I think by a factor of the top 4 other categories on the website. So for a period of time, it was about a month, we controlled the main story, and now I'm giving too much information. People are going to be able to figure this out. We gave you enough boost to actually become an actual platform, and then you've, like, not that we care now, because we don't. None of us are involved with the project anymore. So it's done. It's made its money, etc. But it's like that, just that level of like treatment and disgust. It's like, oh, you helped us build our company, but now we just, now you need to be gone because you have animated boobies. It's like, great, thanks, cool. That's fair, right? That's even-handed. That's something that can be utilized for general public. Like, good God, it's so frustrating.
That is pretty malicious.
Oh, it's malicious. It's malicious, and it's controlling, and that's the thing that's really scary. That's where we're actually getting to be like Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes,
we're actually headed there. Congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that today, like how much I love tech, but at the same time, I love how it's connected with like a dystopian world. And at the first one, you're a kid, you're like, oh, I want, spaceships and everything is all dandy fine. But then when you think about this, Cyberpunk is way more fun.
Yeah, because it's like more grounded in reality, right? This is like
and we got used to it. We live in that world now, so you don't expect good things to happen.
Exactly. Indeed. So,
wow.
We jump to yet another topic. I had we could discuss about ratings. I guess we've already kind of talked about maturity and stuff like that. I also wrote down here potential for is this game gonna take FPS skill? And then I guess if we have any questions in the chat that are outstanding or that are particularly impactful, then we'll address those.
Well, let me just very briefly answer the FPS skills. The gameplay has changed a lot. There's going to be way more focus on companions and skills and stealth. It's really going to get shown off in the next trailer here. So, don't look at what is out and think that that's going to be the basis of the game. I mean, it's still a shooter, right? But it's going to have some differences. It's going to have some pretty cool stuff.
Right. So in terms of movement abilities as well, or I guess that would stay relatively similar, right? The mechanics of the shooting would stay.
It was already like pretty slidey. Like you could like slide and go through windows and stuff like that pretty quickly, and jump too. Like she could jump like really high. So
yes.
Yeah, so I think none of that's going to change all that much. I think that's going to be pretty much where it is. I think you might be able to wall climb. This is going off of what I can guesstimate, knowing who's working on what aspects of the game. Wall climbing was already kind of sort of a thing, but I think they're going to make it so that it's going to be even like bigger. Because
that's awesome.
That would just be so fun. Is like what was that one movie where they could like reverse gravity and they'd be on the roof and like shooting down at the enemies below? It's like that's something that we might see. So
I think a lot of people were asking me in comments, like even way back in the day, can we take the mantis blades and like scale a building? I think maybe not, but that would be so cool. That'd be so cool.
Then we'll have the problem with gravity. Gravity, the worst enemy, the worst enemy in a PROJEKT RED game.
Yes. Didn't we talk about it? Like if we have like the cybernetics in our legs, if we fall down, we take reduced damage.
Yeah,
that's okay.
But if you fall down the whole building, because if you are going to scale up and you have a lot of the buildings are very vertical, depending on what size, there is no damage to reduce. I mean, not even the trauma team can save you.
Like a big splatter down there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Chapter Red.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Dread. Yeah,
Ah, yes.
where she falls down the middle.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
We also had a lot of questions about Cyberpunk Red, about the release. Didn't they say they were aiming for like August 1st?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's
Yeah.
not like the final release. It might change.
It's supposed to be the final release, but you know how these things work.
Yeah.
Video games are not the only games.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
Yeah, they did corrections. Yeah.
yeah, they are working on that as fast as they can. But I guess that they want to have it ready for the they take
Mm.
on.
I
Mhm.
also got a question about the how the digital and the physical release. They're gonna have full color. I think hard book.
Hard copy. Yeah.
Yeah, hard copy. Sorry.
They just released a FAQ the other
Yeah.
day, so they kind of
Yeah.
yeah, and
And they're gonna have the digital one. of
yeah, I
course.
think they specifically the digital one for sure, and they
Yeah.
specifically also mentioned that the Cyberpunk Red is actually the period following the Fourth Corporate War, and it's in 2022, I believe. So we already kind of knew that, but nice to
Mm.
know. Right.
Yes, I believe the game that they explained was set in the 30s.
In Red, you're talking about?
Yes, in Red.
I thought the most recent
Yeah, I
one
didn't
said
specify, though.
2022.
No, he did specify in
He did.
yes in the blog post where Jay was talking about the game that they were playing. He said that it was set in the 30s.
Oh.
I don't remember if he specified the year, but the decade was the 30s.
Ah. It makes sense. Like, of course, we're gonna again still in 77 we're gonna have a big jump in technology, but it's gonna be cool to find out what happened actually after the end of Fourth Corporate War.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it
like
seems
how
excuse me, go on.
yeah, I think they also mentioned like they're going to show how humanity coped with like the world in chaos and how they
Yeah.
got out of it.
I think that this is going to be the point where it's like somewhat rebuilt, and then there's going to be some sort of other cataclysmic event that threatens, 2077, whether that's a technology-based event or otherwise, because like the weather and all that stuff is pretty messed up at this point too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, the other thing they were talking about, well, the story we're talking about, is that it's not completely destroyed like it was in the third edition, and actually the that exploded in the core red center didn't do much damage in the whole city, and that's kind of fucked up because I wanted to see the reconstruction of Night City, mostly to see the underground part of the city after the reconstruction that with the nanobots that they didn't completely clean the ground before starting to build, so they built the mega city on top of the old city. And on the third edition there was an underground part that was so cool, and I was looking forward to see that on the game, but now it's discontinued. And the bomb yes, that's the bad part. And which is quite confusing because at some point was this official information that the map was big upwards and downwards. Like wait, what does downwards mean in that context? Because if the underground part has been discontinued, then what are we going to
Could be
to
underwater
see?
as well.
I don't think the underground part and the ruins of the city have been discontinued. I think they've been just not made to be as present throughout the entirety of the map. Like
No,
he's
been discontinued. I mean, this happened in the third edition. In the third edition, this German scientist goes to Night City and finds a way to rebuild the city using nanobots. And these nanobots thing, well, because as they didn't clean the city, they started to build on top of the old Night City. And then this is third edition. This happened in the third edition. It's discontinued.
But what I'm saying is that just because that aspect of the story has been killed off doesn't mean that there's not ruins and underground areas within the existing city. It's just that one aspect of that particular story has been kind of like shelved, whereas there is still places that you can go that are not safe for people. I mean, we already know that we're having that, but it's just a matter of where and exactly how much versus how it was before.
And they said,
I'm not sure if I'm following you here, because you mean ruins like the ruins that you will going to find in Pacifica, because this part of the city went to hell. I mean, I understand that, but ruins below the city, Night City was a new city. There wasn't anything before they started to build Coronado City. So unless they find, unless between the 30s and 2077 something happens that they have to rebuild the city again, there's no excuse in the law to have this underground in ruins.
No, of course there is, because there's already ruins and underground sections to major cities that are not that are not accessible. I mean, I even live in a city where there's big sections of underground area that have been abandoned. It's a common thing with cities. Period. It's not the fact of them existing in that way is not reliant solely on the one story that was in 2030.
No, but what I mean is that we know the whole story about the construction of the city.
But
this doesn't exist.
They've also said that they're
every other
rejumbling the
city
timeline, though,
built
right?
on the ruins of the previous one. Like
Sorry?
even in New York City, you have tons of underground stuff that's abandoned that's not there. I mean, Paris, you have you've got it lasting for over 1,000 years.
Yes, but it's not city. I mean, it's not a building that was abandoned and built over. It's underground part like the metro stations, things like that, but not the city.
I think he's talking about
But
just
no,
ruins or undergrounds in general, not specific to them
Yes,
rebuilding over.
I was talking specifically about abandoned buildings that became to be underground because they were built over, not underground parts like abandoned metro stations or things like that, or sewers. But the city, it was cool. It was cool because it was a city underground the city.
Yeah. Oh, but they've also rejumbled.
Some underground.
They've rejumbled the timeline too, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's still,
nothing is for certain.
There's still a lot of stuff that we've yet to see.
Yeah. We
Lucas
also.
Tepper, sorry, let me just answer this question real quick. Lucas Tepper is asking a question, and the answer to that is yes. That is all. Thank you. That is all.
We also had an interesting question from Ali. Like he asked if like the success of Cyberpunk is going to help, smaller Cyberpunk games get more traffic, which I definitely think yes, because it introduces more people to the genre, and of course, and I've seen more and more like indie games, like Cyberpunk indie games are being announced, they're being worked on, and hopefully that's going to push even more developers to do it, because this is definitely a subgenre that should be explored more. And hopefully, which I definitely stand behind it, if Cyberpunk is successful, which of course it's going to be, but if it even becomes bigger than they anticipated, of course that's going to boost the traffic, and it should. So yeah.
Who's typing? This time is not me.
I think it's Sib.
Silence.
No. Yeah, if you have anything else to ask in the chat, feel free to do it.
Someone was asking before about the relation, what kind of characters were we going to play, and if we were going to play under a certain sense of morality. And I think that's a good question, because morality in this world works very different than in the real world. Not only because the things that are normalized, the change, but also because so the project explained about that. Someone in development did explain that sometimes you think you are doing something good, but the consequences are going to be bad for you. And I believe that's very interesting.
Yeah, like being a hero kind of a thing. You're a hero to some people, but you attract some attention from people that want to remove you, people that you bother.
I feel like
not only that, when you do something for the good of someone, maybe it's your perception of good, but you're not really doing good to this person.
Are you gonna? I think with most people on most of their playthroughs, I don't want to generalize, but I think they try to make it as accurate to their own personality as possible, so they stand by their own personal morals. And then for alternate playthroughs, they do evil playthroughs or whatever. That's the way I do it.
Yeah.
Actually, most people play out their idea of a
opposite,
like a hero that they have. Not necessarily an opposite, but like they play something that in some aspects is very abnormal to their personality, but something that they usually attach to a particular character, or like a lot of people are going to play Skyrim and play it as if they were like Arya Stark.
Right.
So,
or like a lot of people want to make their characters reminiscent of Geralt, I guess. So.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's just, it puts you like, how would I act if I was in this world, if I was
Yeah.
in this situation?
Exactly.
And like sometimes you're just gonna go like, okay, this playthrough, I don't care about people. I'm just going to do everything for myself. I'm going to kill everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, but usually, like for my first playthrough at least, I tend to have some, morals as I
Well,
play through it.
I really wonder what morals mean in this game.
Yeah.
Because you say you play excuse me, you play according to your own morals, and everybody
Mhm.
wants to believe they are a good person, even if they
Yes.
are not.
And that even starts at the character creation screen, because you can pick a childhood hero, right? So are you gonna pick a corporate
Yes.
god who is like probably massacred people, or are you gonna pick like a rebel who's fighting the good fight, right? So
Mhm.
maybe that
Yeah,
might
but
have
that's
influence.
what is the good fight? I mean, do you remember Star Wars when they blow the Death Star, the second one? There were a lot of workers working in the construction of the Death Star,
Mm-hmm.
and the rebels
Mhm.
just killed everybody.
Yeah.
Is that the good fight?
So fighting the good fight is saving yourself, right? So saving yourself and not trying
Yeah.
to impact other people in negative ways. That's what they've
Saving
referenced.
people that believe the same way that you do.
So
Yeah.
I have a story that I tell every once in a while about my Skyrim playthroughs. I'm never a mass murderer in Skyrim, unless it's like the game goes to hell and it's really buggy and I realize that I'm gonna have to like abandon it. Then I'll just kill everything immediately around me and then quit out. But I play with these like mods that make the game super hard, super difficult, and make it so that any like crime that you commit that's above like just general stealing is like it's a permanent thing. So it's like if you kill somebody from one town, that town is going to hunt you down and they're going to execute you if you can't buy your way out of it. You're
Oh,
put on,
damn.
you know, you're permanently put on the list, you know, the quote unquote list. And so I play with all these other like hardcore, like super realistic functions. So you got to be like really sneaky and really careful, because otherwise, you know, if you get killed, then you're gone. And I saw this one guy walking with an axe, and I was like, oh, that looks like he's gonna be he looks like he's a bandit. I'm in a bandit area, and I'm like, okay, I can take this guy out. I can totally take this guy out. So I get my longbow out. Longbow damage is like through the roof, so it's like one shot usually kills. Shoot him. Arrow perfectly lands right in his neck, and he falls down. And then I hear, "Daddy, no!" In the corner, it's like, "You are now wanted for murder," and I'm like, "Well, there goes this. There
You've
goes
done it
this
now.
game." So I never play as a murdering psychopath because of the my own moral kind of compass. It's like I just don't like doing that, but I like making it like the harder the better would be preferable.
Yeah.
Well,
People-
I'm very violent in video, violent in life. Does that count like not playing like your personal moral compass?
Mm-hmm.
I'd play
Yeah,
like Robin Hood, I think.
The old question: do video games make people violent? Ah, it's fun. It's entertainment. Doesn't mean someone's gonna go and do stuff that they do in Cyberpunk outside.
I've seen, I mean, lag in games that made me really violent. I've seen glitches in games that made me really violent.
Lagging makes me violent.
It's not video, it's lag.
Exactly.
You were going to say something, Ian?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought you were starting to talk and I interrupted. Sorry.
Mm-mm.
I was gonna say as far as like romance options, I always pick my my favorite waifu, or yes,
You stick it out. You stick it out with one.
And
you gotta ride or
I
die in
stick it out.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, just never go the other way. It's like in Mass Effect, it's like I never knew that there was an option to try for a threesome in the first game. Never knew that, because I was like solid to the core the whole time, and then somebody was like, yeah, that threesome option was pretty hilarious, and I was like, oh, wow.
Immediately started a new file to find it.
No, I just watched a YouTube video of it. Again, I couldn't bring myself to flirt with two people at the same time. It's like it just
there you go.
it
Your
just
moral
doesn't
compass
work.
doesn't
It just
allow you
doesn't
to.
function.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to flirt with one. How the fuck I'm going to flirt with two?
Well, that also plays into a problem. So
Tyler actually said in the comments, collateral damage is undesired but inevitable. That's where
is
the
true.
moral compass is blurred.
Well, I remember
yeah.
when I was playing this on 2 that every time you finished a level, you were told that if you killed a lot of people, then the ending would be darker and darker. So you tried to not kill anybody. But the problem is that enemies didn't want to collaborate.
I think that's an interesting thing when it comes to endings too. Like
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's gonna be so many more endings than The Witcher 3, but I think I would like. This is my personal idea. I don't know if it's been implemented, but if there was like a small section of like quote unquote happy endings, and then the like vast majority of them were like depressing ones, and you'd have to really dial in your morality choices and your dialogue choices, and that would kind of play into that. I think that would be cool. I don't know how that would be implemented, but I'd like to see that.
Now you reminded me of an interview with William Gibson where he was asked why did he treat his character so well, and he always says that you think that it's a happy ending doesn't mean it's a happy ending.
Right. Yeah.
Because maybe in the end he got married and the marriage goes super bad.
Well, maybe endings with more happy implications, not like outright telling you. It's always, I think, endings shrouded in mystery are always cool, but the implications behind it, maybe, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Hollywood ending, you mean?
Yeah.
Actually, like first time I played The Witcher, I actually got like the worst possible ending for the game.
So did I.
Like, God damn it,
so did I. It's because you were too nice with Siri. You weren't strict enough with her, right? So that's like a
no. I think if you are strict, if you deny her everything, then actually get the worst.
Oh, is that how it worked?
Yeah, I think so. Because I was trying to be protective. She was like, "I want to go fight the wild humble." I'm like, "No."
Yeah, that's what I was doing too. Yeah. I think there was multiple hinges to that thing. It wasn't just one dialogue option. It was like a multitude of them, and there was like branching. Right. So
you spend all your life training her, then you don't let her fight?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think this means that you guys are a bunch of white knights.
We're
We're
wussies,
yes.
hey? Listen, we're gonna change that up in Cyberpunk, all right? You're gonna change that up.
And like the second time, like through my second playthrough, because when I realized how strong she actually is, like from those little segments of the game where you play a Siri, I'm like, yeah, go fight. I'll sit down. She's going to handle the White Frost anyway.
Right.
You have to let her fight. You've been training her for that, for fuck's sake. Now you want me to play...
We're overprotective, right?
Sorry?
I said we're just overprotective. That's how we roll.
Yes, you were overprotective. And to someone who your character who you trained all her life to be a fighter.
Yeah.
And a survivor. And then the moment that she proved everything that she learned from you, you deny her that?
Kind of cruel, hey?
That's why we got this ending.
Yeah.
We learned.
Now we know. Yeah, we learned. Now we know better.
Not only that, because she gets frustrated and that's what happens, and I maybe we should change the subject because this may be a spoiler for someone watching this.
Oh yeah. Spoiler alert. But no, like while we're talking about companions and friends, like I really want to see some connection. Like, of course, there's gonna be a connection, but I want to see this bonding of Lee and Jackie and other characters of just being friends and being comrades in fight.
Yeah.
Especially
as I'm single as fuck, I'm going to spend all the game trying to get to bed everybody that I can.
And the awesome thing is our companions, like we're kind of set in the Netrunner, Techie, and Solo. It's our companions can be pretty much anything, right? We've already had T-Bug, who's a Netrunner. Jackie is presumably a Solo, I'm guessing. And then we can have maybe Rocker Boys and stuff like that as companions, which would be awesome because we get more in-depth coverage of those classes.
Yes, because also the rest of the classes, what is this is something that wasn't clear to me on the demo, is that if you can command your companion to do things.
I think
Because your
Sib
companion
was
is
saying
going to
that.
have... Sorry?
I think Sib was saying that last time that they're implementing
last week.
that.
Yeah. So from
Really?
what I've gathered is that's a big part of the stuff that they've worked on in the last year. Previously, there was like 1 or 2 small commands that we saw in the trailer, but there wasn't very much else other than the fact that Jiggy was just kind of like auto follow and would just auto engage all the time. But I think we're going to see a lot more commands, and we're going to see a lot more like pre-planning, because that's something that will take the game from a difficult game to and increase the skill ceiling on it. When you can like plan and rely on your companions more, you're going to be able to do more stuff other than just it being like, a Doom shooter is not the same as like, playing on nightmare difficulty on Mass Effect 2 or 3. Especially 3 had some like insane level difficulty, especially in the multiplayer, where it's like you get 1 inch too close to one enemy and they'll do like an auto execute on you, and then you're like done. The skill ceiling gets higher the more you can coordinate with your teammates, and that's something that I've heard from multiple sources, and we can confirm from their hiring positions over the last year, that they've really increased the amount of companion. Even before the E3 trailer, there was a lot of like, this time last year, there was a lot of hiring for companion related stuff, and then that finished up shortly after the E3 event. So I think they got pretty much what they needed, but that wasn't represented in the build that we saw. We saw basically the E3 build just cleaned up a little bit more. I think what we'll see this time around, what we're going to be seeing in just a few more months, is going to be pretty epic. Sorry, Andre. Yeah.
Yeah, what is it, like 35 days till E3?
Yeah. It's getting closer.
More info, please.
Getting there.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the... I'm wondering, what are they going to show? Are they going to show more story? Because it's true that they didn't show a lot about Arasaka yet. Someone was asking before, is there a quintessential bad guy in this universe? Well, this universe is entirely composed of quintessential
Everybody's
bad
a
guys.
bad guy, essentially.
Yeah,
in their own way.
Yeah.
Mostly mega corporations, but depends.
Mhm.
You also have boosters. You have all types of enemies. The big one, I guess, it will be Arasaka. And they didn't show anything at all about Arasaka. They showed this in the trailer, this meeting that they were having, and they showed the news, and that's it. They didn't show the Arasaka security officers. They didn't show a lot about them, and I want to see it. And I also want to see the net, more of the net. I'm really curious what... I'm taking for granted that Johnny Silverhand is going to be in the game, because they hinted that in the gameplay. If Johnny Silverhand is in the game, and I'm taking for granted that Al Cunningham is also in the game, but I don't know if Rage Bartmos is going to be in the game, which is someone that I would really, really like to see. Because if Arasaka has the weight in the game that I believe it's going to have, then, I mean, the two biggest enemies of Arasaka are Johnny Silverhand, doesn't have that much power, and Rage Bartmos. And Rage Bartmos is supposed to be dead. Arasaka killed him. But he was connected to the net when this happened, so we don't really know if he's dead or not. So I'm like, are we going to see Rage Bartmos in the...
I hope so.
We'll see. I hope so.
I have a strong feeling that we're going to see the story revolve around Arasaka, and the difference between the Arasaka as it used to be and the Arasaka as it is now, and that there's going to be a power play for it, and that I suspect that we're going to have like that big, like the big enemy, where we're going to be introduced to a character who's going to be like the main antagonist throughout the game. I think we're going to see that. I have a strong feeling that that's kind of something. It's a pillar of storytelling that it's really hard to do without, especially in an interactive video game. It's like you need to have a way to make an enemy, and then to have that enemy be, something that's worth it all the way through. Unless you go the route of Shadows of Mordor, where it's like your enemies are just created on the fly, and it's different each time. It's like they could do that. I don't think that's a good idea, but they could do that. So yeah.
Let me answer something that's going on in the implementation of the net. We discarded the net as we found it too hard to properly implement. I mean, the net is official. The net is official. That the net in Cyberpunk is official. That is not it's not a theory.
That's the big thing they're revamping too. That's
the theory
that's the big
is
focus.
how it looks like if what we saw in the net in the gameplay was the net. That's the theory. That the fact that the net is in the game, that is official, was officially announced by PROJEKT RED past E3. We will have the net. How? We don't know. But the net is going to be there. So don't worry about that. We'll have net.
Yeah.
Well,
all these questions and no answers. E3, what ready? Well, I believe that everybody needs enough time to work on the things of E3. So hashtag we can wait. Hashtag we have no other choice as well.
Hashtag sad face.
Yes, but the more we have to wait, the more that we, the more hype we will be.
Yeah. I want to see some more gunplay. I don't know why. It's just I'm a big FPS guy, so like I'm not expecting, of course, Cyberpunk to be an FPS game. It's primarily an RPG with the gunplay aspect with those mechanics, but at the same time, kind of want to see more weapons.
I agree.
Especially melee weapons.
Yeah,
and how they will function.
I think they looked.
We will see a lot of things.
I think they looked a little plain too, so I want to see some more futuristic kind of weapons as well. Because all the weapons in the demo kind of look like real-world equivalents, and I know a lot of them are going to be, but
yes, well, I believe that the one that are going to be sci-fi are going to be the exotic.
Yeah, I want to see
because
those.
It's like it is in this universe. The rest of weapons are based on the current weapons with modifications, but they don't look like your typical sci-fi, but exotics do. So, well, I believe that we went on for 87 minutes.
Yeah, should we
quite a lot.
Wrap it up?
87 minutes.
Yes, it started streaming 87 minutes ago.
Where do you even see that? I don't see that anywhere on my. It must be on my dashboard, I guess, eh?
No,
yes,
if you
because
like,
it's just below your username. So maybe you are not seeing your user.
Oh, I see it. I'm just blind. 87 minutes.
Time flies when you talk about Cyberpunk,
right?
Time flies.
Right?
And I'm sure
when you're having fun. And just wait until we get the deluge of information. Oh my goodness.
Oh yes.
Oh, these podcasts are gonna be like 5 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, well, then we split the work. The news for you, the law for me.
I'm down.
Yeah. No way to subtitle that.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Man. All right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
You guys cool with that? All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Be back next Sunday on LastKnownMeal's channel. He'll be streaming the podcast as always. It's Sunday at, I always say 12 p.m. Mountain because that's my time, but nobody knows what that means, so you can Google that or whatever. So we'll be back next week. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for interacting in chat, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Talk to you guys next week. See ya.